Hello everybody, today is the anniversary of the day in 1884 when the International Meridian Conference decided that GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, would be the time from which all the other time zones around the globe would be calculated. The height of England's maritime supremacy and time zones being important for shipping, I suppose it was natural, but it obviously suggests, as probably it was the case at the time, that London was the heart of everything. That was the point of view from which everything else was viewed. And it's very easy for us to go on thinking that way as people who live, if not in London, at least in that part of the world. And I realise there are some watching who are not in that category. But for those of us who are based here, it is easy for us to see everything as being focusing around us. I always find it interesting to compare the news summary that you get on Radio 4, for example, with the news summary that you'll get on the BBC World Service. In the World Service you get a perspective that has a more global approach, whereas on Radio 4 you see things from an English, British perspective. And I think increasingly we're in a world where everything is encouraging us to see things from our point of view. The way that social media is manipulated is clearly finding what we're interested in, knowing what we want to follow, and giving us, feeding us that sort of information so that our view becomes narrower and narrower. The same, of course, has been true for the way maps are drawn. The projection used for the majority of maps with which we're mostly familiar gives countries that are further from the equator more space on the map in proportion to their size than those near the equator. So, for example, Greenland then looks absolutely massive, whereas it's a fraction actually of the size of Africa. We therefore see our country, Great Britain, as much larger in proportion to the rest of the world than it actually is. Whereas the Peters projection maps, which you'll also perhaps be familiar with, don't work on that basis at all. They work on the basis of the actual geographical area covered by the country, and that means there are other distortions, but at least you get an idea of the representative and comparative size of each of the countries. And Great Britain becomes tiny, really, in comparison with the rest of the world when looked at on the Peters projection map. And so today I want just to remember that my viewpoint, and my country's viewpoint, is only partial and doesn't see the whole. None of us, of course, can really see the whole, but at least we can make the attempt to have a wider view than one that just starts with us.